WJG Sports. We journal great.
What's up, everybody? This is the Just Like Brothers podcast, episode 54. I am Leica BB, aka Striker, here in Greenville, North Carolina. In Goldsboro, my man Kai Jones. Kai, what's up?
What's going on, everybody?
And our special guest today, Averett University assistant men's basketball coach Chris Sauce. Chris, thank you for joining us, man. We appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you guys having me, man.
Chris, we'll just get into it, man. You got started playing really well at the high school level, and then transitioned to play basketball at North Carolina Wesleyan. How did you get your start there, and how did you get your start in the coaching game?
Wesleyan's a funny story, man. So I was at Voyager Academy in Durham, and third round of the state playoffs, I was looking at a couple different things as far as walk-ons and stuff at that point in recruitment. But we were playing Whiteville High School, and they were really good back then. They had Sean and Terrell Kirk and like a couple guys that went JUCO. But so Wesleyan's Coach Thompson was out. He came to Voyager to watch a kid on Whiteville, and he saw that I played well. I talked to him after the game. We went to the next round. Bam Adebayo and them knocked us out, but Coach Thompson was there again, so went and took a visit and really enjoyed it. My brother was there. It felt like a good place to play, and I just went there, played for 4 years. And then coaching-wise, got to start while I was at Wesleyan. I started working with Phenom Hoops, just knowing I wanted to coach, and that allowed me to make a lot of connections, meet a lot of people. Just tried to work as hard as I could, do everything I could, and Averett gave me my first opportunity.
Gotcha. So how long have you been on the coaching staff at Averett?
This was my first season this past year. So I just graduated Wesleyan last year and was able to hop right into it.
Man, isn't that crazy? When you can graduate school and then immediately within a year you find a coaching job. That had to have been kind of satisfying. But your time as a coach at Averett, what was your first year like at Averett?
It was a great year this year, man. The culture at Averett is one that's so unique, man. It's just built on toughness and accountability, guys doing things the right way all the time. And that's been built by Coach DeWino, our head coach here. He's been here for 6 years now. And our guys really bought into that. They bought into just self-starters this year. We had a lot of self-starters. We had a lot of guys who were willing to hold each other accountable. So it didn't always have to come from us as coaches. And so we were able to, I think we won 21 games this year. We won the regular season of our league, got knocked out in the semifinals of the conference tournament, but great first year, man. We set all kinds of school records for wins and defensive numbers and all that stuff.
Right. How did Averett kind of come into the picture for you?
Just when I was working with Phenom, I used to do a thing where I knew Division III schools couldn't really afford to get out every weekend and travel to some of these tournaments. So some of the Division III schools in our area, the ODAC schools, the USA South, I would watch the kids at the tournament, and I would just kind of type up a little email to them with kids I thought that they maybe needed to see. A bunch of kids in our area that could have went Division III. Sometimes they get missed just because, like I said, sometimes a Division III school can't afford to make the trip out every weekend, and maybe they miss a kid when he's playing really well on a Sunday because they can only afford to come out for a Saturday. So just tried to connect and send players to guys, and Coach DeWino and I built a relationship through that.
Right. So I believe y'all played Averett, correct? When you
Yep.
were actually playing. So,
Yep.
like, how much did you know about, Coach I'm bad with names. Delfino?
DeWino, yep.
Delfino, yeah.
So
how much did you know about him beforehand going into him offering you the opportunity?
I knew that he was intense, man. Every time we played Averett, Wesleyan and Averett was kind of a rivalry as well because Coach DeWino actually coached at Wesleyan. He was the assistant there for 8 years. So that was a big-time game for everybody. Of course, they always want to beat each other, and I knew he was intense. I knew Averett always played hard. And then, I built my relationship with him through the summer, sat and talked with him at a couple Phenom events, and just really got to know him as a dude. And the guy who was here last year took a job down in a junior college in Alabama. So that spot opened up, and I was able to secure it, luckily.
Right. When you look at it, what was the first year like trying to kind of come in and get your feet wet with coaching like that?
It was a learning experience every day, man. I tell our guys, they teach me something different every day. And for some of our guys, I mean, I played at Wesleyan. It's kind of a rivalry for Averett. So I'm playing against the guys. And then 4 or 5 months later, they're like, oh, this is your new coach. So the biggest thing for me, I knew guys were going to be a little hesitant. Like, they didn't really know me. You have to kind of build trust with guys. So I just tried to work as hard as I can, get in the gym with guys as much as possible, and just show them, because I think you have to build that level of trust, and those relationships are really where that bond forms.
Your time at Wesleyan as a basketball player, what kind of success did you guys have up there under such a great coaching staff led by Coach Thompson and company?
Yeah, my time at Wesleyan, we were really successful, actually. I mean, my class won 3 conference championships the regular season in 4 years, and we did a lot of other things. We had all of our guys graduated on time. We all made academic all conference our senior year. So, man, we did a lot of really good things at Wesleyan, and Coach Thompson and Coach Thomas, Coach Grantham and Coach Mosley, all the coaches that were there are a huge part of it, man.
And Coach Thomas is now at NC Central, of course.
Yep.
Of course, the way you guys, did anything playing wise kind of like go into your style of coaching? Like, did anything from that like translate over to Averett as a coach?
Coach Thompson was always really big on doing things the right way. So Coach Thompson, I'd say big things that he always taught me, like, we teach our guys the same things here. Coach DeWino obviously picked them up when he was an assistant there as well. Just like when you walk into a building, you take your hat off, you take your headphones out in case somebody's trying to talk to you, things like that. Just kind of building players into young men and professionals and stuff. That was a big thing. But the styles at Wesleyan and Averett are different. I mean, we run different stuff. We kind of recruit different players. So as similar as we are, we're still a little different.
So did you actually get a chance to play against some of your players?
I did, man. I played against most of them, actually, besides the freshmen. So pretty much all of our guys we competed against, we battled against, and if we joke about it now, it was fun.
There was no animosity coming into that?
There might have been some from a couple guys. I don't know, man, but they all handled it well, and they really welcomed me with open arms for sure.
Of course, you guys at Averett have a little bit of a Goldsboro connection. Talk to us about your 2 Goldsboro native players that are on the Averett basketball team.
Ian Best and Jamal Ford are the 2 guys. Ian was a senior for us last year, and Ian was a big part of, I knew coming in, like you guys have pointed out, being a guy that played against them, it was really about getting the seniors to trust me because they had played against me for so long and they had known me and stuff. And so Ian was a huge part of that, man. He's one of the best people you'll ever meet and one of the smartest kids I've ever been around. He just got a full scholarship for graduate school at UNCW, so he's going to do some great things, man. And he's doing he had a good year for us last year. He was our unsung hero. Sometimes in the box score what Ian didn't show up, but as far as leadership, buying in, making sure guys are where they need to be, Ian was as good as anybody. And Jamal had a little bit of an up and down year playing wise, but same thing as Ian, man. He never came in upset. He never pouted. He never complained. Like, just worked hard, kept trying to get in the gym, really bought into getting some of our younger guys better and teaching them how to do things the right way. So I can't say enough good things about those 2 people as players and people.
And fun fact, Jamal Ford went to school with one Kai Jones at Wayne Country Day, of course.
I have set very many picks on Jamal. I'm positive that I have given Jamal at least one scar or scratch or something due to open run practice.
I probably did too when we were playing against each other, man.
When you look at it, how big is it for you to be able to recruit, Eastern North Carolina?
It's huge, man. Eastern North Carolina is a place that it's hard for a lot of schools to get out to and recruit. but there's a ton of talent out there, man. And we were just talking about before we started recruiting. I said the Eastern North Carolina guys, as far as videos and what you guys do, as hard as it is to get out to some places out there, there's a great job covering it. I mean, Trey at Hoop Farm, Bucket Reel, Hoops HQ, you guys, and I can't even name all of them, but there's great.
Streets.nation too.
There you go. Yup. They do. All you guys do great stuff covering all that area because there's so much talent out there, but things are kind of spread out, so it's a little harder to get to. Some of the kids fly under the radar, but those are the kids that we need to be on a lot of times.
With your parents actually having a connection is a little bit easier for you. You can I can sneak to this kid here in Durham and I can go home and spend the night.
Exactly. Exactly.
And yeah, there is an Eastern North Carolina connection just everywhere on your team. I mean, you got kids from Rocky Mount, you got kids from Goldsboro, you got kids from everywhere really. Like you from everywhere from Virginia to Florida to Maryland. It's a really talented roster you guys have.
Right. And it's great for us. Just bringing guys in from different backgrounds. It gives different guys different perspectives, and our guys we never really have any issues blending those guys, luckily.
What have been, at least for what you're allowed to say, break down a little bit of your 2020 recruiting class?
Well, right now we have a few guys deposited, and we're really excited about those guys. We've got I don't think I'm allowed to name drop, so they can and people can figure it out on Twitter or whatever. But we're really excited for what we've got so far. We're still finishing up just a couple more pieces, but just being able to, I think we've got guys coming in that are great people, first of all, and that was a big thing we, of course, emphasized, just trying to bring in the right kind of people to mesh with our team, but also great players, guys that we think will do things the right way. And with us, you just got to be able to be coached hard. You got to want to play hard, and you got to be willing to grow as a player.
Right. We talk about recruiting. What is you guys' kind of philosophy on need versus talent? Because there's maybe some times where a guy may not necessarily fit into what you need right away, but could be a good piece in the next year or two.
I think for us, that's a little easier than it is at higher level schools, being that Division III doesn't have athletic scholarships. So if we take a kid who's really talented, who we think could be a good piece, but maybe it's a point guard, and maybe we have 2 point guards who are juniors and seniors, so he probably won't get as many minutes as he would at another school right away. But, we're not losing one of our 12 or 13 scholarships by bringing them in. And it's always good for smaller schools to have more students, of course. And those guys come in, and that's happened before. You want to obviously have the most talented team. And a lot of times with us, as the guys you think are going to play all the minutes and all the time in preseason, if they're getting outworked in practice, then the guys who are outworking them are the ones that are actually going to end up playing. So,
go ahead, Con. You go.
Go ahead.
All right. I was going to ask a little bit about the USA South Conference as a whole and how competitive that conference is. So, what is it like going up against teams like Methodist, William Peace, Pfeiffer, Greensboro every night?
It's hard, man. It's an every night league is what I tell people, because if you don't bring it, there's nobody who can't be beat in our league. And the real aspect that makes it super difficult is how spread out the league is. The East Division is not that far, but you take trips to the Alabama and Georgia and Kentucky, and it's kind of hard sometimes if you're just getting off a bus one night and you're at a hotel. You don't really know how your guys are going to play every time. Sometimes shots aren't going to fall when you take a 10, 11-hour bus ride down to Alabama and you got to play the next day. Shots aren't going to fall and legs aren't going to be as fresh. So that's why we really try to emphasize things like defense and rebounding, because no matter if shots aren't falling, if you emphasize, those things will always come with you.
Absolutely.
Right. Also when you look at it, who are some of the toughest teams for you guys to game plan against?
A lot of teams in the East Division, man. We have teams that play really fast. William Peace plays really fast. They're capable of hitting 15 to 23s on any given night because they fill their roster up with that stuff. Pfeiffer is a really talented roster every year, and they play fast as well. NC Wesleyan and us are obviously, like I said, the coaching staffs have a lot of familiarity, so That's always a tough one. Methodist does a great job of disguising what they do, and they have a lot of talent. So I'd say every team, and Greensboro as well, they're another team in our division, and they run a lot of really good stuff. They're well coached. So I'd say all those teams are really hard to prep for, and we play each of the East Division teams twice, and the West Division is tough to prep for as well because you can only get to see them once in a year, so that makes it a little harder.
Right. And when you look at it, speaking of game plan, how tough is it to game plan versus how it was when you were playing, just preparing off of what the game plan says?
Oh, it's hard, man, because, I mean, you got to have everything right is the biggest thing, because if you tell a guy that one means they're going to backdoor cut and then set a stag or something, and they're doing something completely different when they call one, the guys are like, Coach, I was playing it for this, and this happened. But then also tendencies. Tendencies are a big thing we emphasize in scouting reports because with really good players, like you have some really good guards and really good bigs in our league. And so sometimes with the really good bigs, you can't stop everything. You just want to know, okay, he wants to shoot a hook over his left shoulder, so I got to tell our guys they got to play that left shoulder or he's just going to kill us all night. So tendencies are the biggest thing I try to pick up in scouts.
How much game planning do college players get? Because I remember in high school, game plans were, hey, this guy, we know this guy likes to go right, or, this guy, he likes to go left. That was pretty much what you were going to get.
Right.
How much different is it, on the college level?
It's a lot different. So the coaches take the bulk of it, obviously, and so we try to break down every game. Every player has a scouting report on their main guys, their actions and stuff, and we'll go over what their guys do tendency-wise, what sets they run, and when we go over their sets, we'll watch film on what they do as well as put our guys on the court and walk through it because some guys can really learn from seeing it on a screen, and then other guys learn much better if you can put them on a court and kind of walk through it, dummy offense, but we spend a lot of time on game planning just because that's any little advantage you can get in the middle of a game will help you.
Right. And when you look at it, too, as an assistant coach, what are your days like when you consider that, you have a part in recruiting, you have a part in game planning, have a part in practice prep? Like, what is a day like for you?
They're long sometimes, man. I mean, we're always me and the other assistant, Brandon, we always try to beat the head coach to the office. We always want to be the first ones there. So, and at Averett, which is a smaller school, sometimes you have to wear a lot of hats. I mean, if the athletic director is like, hey, we just got a shipment in for the football team, we need help moving stuff, sometimes that gets thrown into your day, and you got to recruit. You've got to have all the game plan stuff ready. So it's a grind, but we're also graduate students, so throwing homework on top of it.
Yeah.
We lost you for a second.
I think we might.
Oh, we got him back.
Go, continue. You were on homework and stuff
yeah.
with graduate students.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a grind being a graduate student on top of all the other responsibilities of being a coach and trying to get guys in the gym and making sure everything's running smoothly. But I've really embraced and appreciated the grind, and I just love doing it every day. There's nothing I'd rather be doing.
Right.
Just a side note, it's just when we were on this call, it seemed to have been freezing CJ from time to time, but it's all good. At least we're still getting a lot of good information. But you can go ahead, continue. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, when you look at it, how good is it to have that much busy stuff to do to kind of keep you on schedule? I mean, how much does being that busy kind of lead into helping you out a little bit?
I love it, man. Personally, I'm a guy who would much rather have a lot of things to do than nothing to do. Like, that's why this quarantine is driving me crazy, man. It's just sometimes you're just sitting around like, man, what else can I do right now? But I'm a guy who would rather get out of the bed early and spend my time doing some work rather than just sitting around and not doing anything.
I actually feel the same way. Like, I'm actually missing doing something,
Right.
I'm usually one that will like to chill out for a little bit, which is good. But like, if it's for an extended period of time, like if I'm not taking pictures or doing basketball, football, any sport, like it's kind of rough. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm the same way.
But to continue, what do you feel is the best trait traits for a recruit that's trying to play at the collegiate level?
I would just say a hard work ethic, man. Work ethic and just being a good, genuine person. A lot of coaches are willing to work with you if you have those two things. Even though you might not be the most talented, might not be the biggest or the strongest. If you're a good, genuine person, that's a big thing that people want to be around you. People want you in their program, and if you can work hard, if you can show coaches that you have something to work with and you're willing to get better every day, I'd say those are the two biggest things for recruits, and those are things that we really look for.
You know, when you look at it and you talk about recruits, how important is it to see kind of a guy in practice and then kind of see him in the game, you know? Or do you not really care about practice at first and then you think that maybe you could change some of the practice habits? What's kind of your philosophy that you've seen work?
If I had an ideal situation, I'd love to see a guy practice. I'd love to see him work out. I'd love to see him in games. I'd like to see him in wins and losses. So, I mean, you want to kind of get to know a kid as much as you can. And practice habits are so important because on any level of college basketball, practices are usually so much more intense than high school at certain places, which just is what it is. I mean, there's a lot of really good guys and they're all competing for minutes. So that just kind of breeds a lot of competition in practice. So if you have a guy who doesn't practice hard in high school and he's hands down the best player on his team, it's hard to expect him to come to the next level and be able to be ready to go right away.
Mm. You know, then when you look at it as well, you know, how much do you think it benefits some recruits to have this quarantine time, where you can kind of just send film versus, you know, having to be seen?
I think it's definitely helped some guys, but what I've seen a lot of great stuff on Twitter during all this, and one of the best things I saw, I can't remember where I saw it, but it just said when the quarantine ends, you're going to be able to tell who's working, and that's a big thing. I mean, if you might be a really good player before all this, and then your first game or your first tournament afterwards, people can tell you've just been sitting around playing Xbox for 2-3 months.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's what I'm really most interested in whenever this thing ends and we're able to get back to it, is who has actually been going out and getting shots up wherever they can. Obviously, it's kind of hard to do that right now in a lot of areas, but there are always little things that you could do to always keep in shape, keep working, you know. And it's gonna be really interesting to see who has been working and who hasn't. And I think it will help and hurt a lot of recruits over the next several weeks.
Definitely.
You know, when you look at it as well, the one thing I want to ask, they've dropped the SAT requirement for guys again. How much does that benefit but D3 and D2 versus the D1? We know D1, you know, you have to have certain SAT ranks.
Right. I think the NCAA doing that, dropping the test scores, was a great thing this year because, I mean, there was a lot of kids who there's maybe some kids aren't good test takers. They got a little nervous. They didn't do as well on the first try and were planning on retaking it, and they didn't get that opportunity. So maybe they're a really good student. They just, like I said, weren't a good test taker. So they'll end up getting more money financially for academics and stuff based off just being a good student. So I think that was a really good and proactive thing the NCAA did. That's helped us a lot.
Right. And when you look at it, the academics, I know it's very important at the D3 level. What are some things that you try to identify from certain guys for you to really understand, like, okay, this is a guy that I can easily recruit versus other guys where you're looking at them like, well, you'll probably have to take on, you know, some loans on your own because your grades aren't that high.
Right. So academics are huge, man, just because if you can't do well in a high school classroom, you're going to struggle in a college classroom too, so when I'm out recruiting, and our coach taught me this, just sometimes you're standing there on a baseline and there's a couple teachers standing there. Maybe try to ask them about a kid. They can give you a real perspective on a kid. But for financial aid, obviously, the better grades you have, the more money you can get anywhere, Averett or any Division III school you talk to. And then also just financial, your parents' finances, FAFSA, all that stuff helps us out a ton as well.
Right. And then also to think about is when you look at the transfer rule that they were talking about. Do you think that helps or hurts the D3 level? Do you think that would have really affected it all had it been passed?
Man, for D3, there's with no athletic scholarships, kids are able to transfer whenever they want and play right away anyway. So I think what I heard, Nigel Thomas actually, he's at Central now, he's my coach at Wesleyan. He said a thing where at the end of every year, he believes you should recruit your own team first. So if you don't want your guys transferring, it's kind of up to you. You kind of have to create that environment, create something that makes it a good situation for them to stay in. And that really resonated with me. I thought that was a great thing.
Yeah, and Nigel, I'm really happy for him that he's got that job at Central under great head coach Lavelle Moten. You guys, for you, CJ, what was kind of the in between period like for you in between playing and coaching, like in Phenom hoops? Like what were some of the things you did to kind of elevate yourself and put yourself in position to become an assistant?
It was stressful, man, because I wanted it all right away, but I knew that I had to play a little bit of a waiting game, and I was trying to contact and get in touch with as many coaches as possible. I went back to my high school, Voyager Academy, and worked with those guys a little bit, helped with some of their practices, and Aunt Simmons over there does a really good job. So I tried to help them out. And
I think we might have lost him again.
Yeah.
Did we lose CJ again? CJ, you there? I think you might have frozen again, Kai.
Yeah, I think he's definitely frozen. Oh,
did you get me back?
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, there we go. My bad.
You can continue. You were on when you froze, you were talking about how Coach Aunt Simmons at Voyager has done a really good job. Also works for the State Network.
Yeah, definitely does a good job over there, man. But I went on a lot of interviews and had a lot of opportunities thanks to Phenom, and most of them I just had to figure out what would work for me financially. Because a guy coming out of school his first year, trying to get into coaching, everybody had they had a lot of unpaid and volunteer positions. But thankfully I was able to find Averett, which worked, and I just tried to connect with as many people as possible in that meantime.
And was the proximity to home also kind of a thing that brought you to Averett as well? Because I know it's not too terribly far from Durham.
Right, yeah, that definitely it helped, man. I mean, I'm only about an hour and a half from my mom, and it's good. I got a little brother who's in high school as well. He does track and cross country, so sometimes in the off season I'm able to pop out and go see one of his meets or something, and so it's a really good thing for me being able to be close enough to home to go see my mom for Mother's Day and stuff like that.
Right. When you look at it too, how important has building relationships kind of been in your time of coaching?
Oh, that's everything, man, because especially a guy like me who is so young, who is so new to this whole business, man. So building relationships, one, is what got me this job, but it's also helped me to grow and to learn so much. Everybody I talk to who's older has been able to teach me a lot, and I know that that's what's going to be important in the future as well, because learning and growing and all these guys who are going to be helping me out, that's a part of the business I really appreciate, I guess I would say. I just love getting to know new people. I love getting to meet different people, hear their stories and stuff. It's great.
Talking about relationships, when you look at the JUCO level to D3, how important do you think that connection is? And I mean, do you guys really try to look at JUCOs, or are you guys strictly high school?
We look at both as much as possible. I think relationships with any JUCO to any level are really important, and it's the same thing with high schools and AAU. I think just playing for a coach who really knows what they're doing, who has some relationships, who can help you out as much as possible. Especially this time right now, we've like I said, we still hopped in on some guys late, tried to recruit them, and So getting to know those coaches in the area. If I have a kid from a school out by you guys, I know a couple coaches out there. I can reach out to one of the coaches I know, and even if he doesn't play for their team, he's in their league. They can tell me about them, and so those relationships have helped us a lot, especially recruiting right now.
What were some of your favorite memories as a player in NC Wesleyan? Do you have anything specific stand out to you? I know there's a lot to choose from with all the winning you guys have done.
One of my favorite games, man. It was actually one of my best games. We were playing at LaGrange in Georgia my junior year, and it was the game to clinch the conference championship. And we got down like 25 early in the second half, but I came in. I got a couple good looks. Guys hit me when I was open. I got a couple layups, and then our point guard Adrian Moore hit a couple really big shots late, and we came all the way back to clinch the conference championship. And just the celebration in the locker room afterwards, and that was one of my favorite memories. But also one of the things I would just say was the bus rides back and forth to games, man. Before games, after wins, those were great. Just getting to be with the guys.
Down 25 in the second half against a team from Georgia. That sounds familiar.
Oh man!
But to continue, at least what were some of your standout victories from Averett this year? What were some of the big wins you guys had?
We had a really big win here against William Peace this season. One of our forwards, Raymond Bullock, hit a game winner, so that was a really cool win for us. We were able to go up to Virginia Wesleyan, who's a top 15 team in the country, and we beat them at their place this year. That was a huge win for us. There was a lot of good wins. It's hard to put one win over another just because you appreciate all of them that you can come by. But those were a couple really big memories that stood out. What
was your career high at Wesleyan, by the way?
I want to say it was 21.
Okay, still pretty good. I'm trying to give CJ some hype because he was a bucket. But Kyle, you got another question?
Yeah, do you still root for Wesleyan now?
If they're not playing Averett.
Yeah, that's probably the answer that's the answer I was expecting.
Yeah, I still know a lot of guys over there, man, and as long as they're not playing us, I want to see those guys do well. That's still family.
So you're fine with them as long as they lose 3 games in a year,
That's fine as long as we can still win the league.
You know what's actually crazy? I was looking at Averett's schedule, and they did beat Wesleyan 3 times, I believe.
We did, yeah. We did play them, and we beat them 3 times this year. They were all really tight and great battles. Great battles.
Kyle, you got anything else?
No, I think that's about it that I got.
Well, Chris Sauce, Avery University assistant men's basketball coach. Thank you so much for joining us, man. I know we've been meaning to do this for a while, so it's great to have you, and best of luck and you as you continue your coaching career.
Thank you guys so much for having me on, man, and for all you guys do for us and for all the kids out in that area.
CJ, where can they find you on social media, by the way?
Twitter, Instagram, everything. I'm at CJ Sauce. Sauce is SAUSE. So I'll
much sauce.
Yeah, definitely interact with me, man. I love to get on social media. I love to see what's going on with people.
Absolutely. Of course, you can find myself and Kai on all social media. You know that. You know where to find us. WJG Sports is on all social media platforms. This podcast, you can see it on YouTube. We'll be on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms. And, of course, continue to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And Kai and I, we got more stuff coming for you. So, of course, Kai, you the man. My name's Laika Abibi. CJ Sauce, Kai Jones, thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. Peace.